Algebra B students, we're going to continue to solve equations. We're going to move on to solving equations using what's called the quadratic formula, and this is an introduction video. On your paper you have the equation 3, it should be x squared, not c, and then plus 5x minus 2 equals 0. Pause the video, take a minute, and go ahead and solve this by factoring first. You solve this by factoring, and you should have gotten z equals 1/3 and -2. Keep those answers in mind. We're going to use what's called the quadratic formula now to come up with those exact same answers. The quadratic formula is on the next slide. Pause the video and write the quadratic formula down. The quadratic formula is x equals a -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And now at this point you're probably saying, well, what are the a's, the b's, and the c's? You're going to take your equation and you're going to write it in standard form, and standard form is ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. And you're supposed to write that on your sheet, so pause the video if you need to. All right, so let's take a look at the equation that we're working with. First off, that z is supposed to be an x. We have 3x squared plus 5x minus 2 equals 0. And so looking in front of the x squared, first off, this is in standard form because you haven't set it equal to 0, so we have that correct. Now my a is going to be the number in front of the x squared, which is called the quadratic term, so my a is 3. My b is the number in front of the linear term, which is the x, so b is 5. And the constant is the number all by itself, which is c, which is -2. All right, we're going to solve this using the quadratic equation, the quadratic formula. I'm going to take the opposite of b. So I have 5, so x equals, I'm going to write -5 plus or minus square root. I need b squared, which is 5 squared, minus 4, a is 3, c is -2, and then all over 2, and a is 3. All right, you need to make sure that you're writing down all of the steps on your paper as well. So now I need to simplify this. I'm going to write x squared. I need to do my order of operations. I need to take care of what's underneath the root first. I'm going to do -5 plus or minus. Underneath the root, 5 squared is 25. I'm going to take a -4 times 3 times -2. 4 times 3 is 12. Times -2 is -24. And then I also have the minus sign, so a negative and a minus is going to be a plus 24. And then that is all over on the bottom I have 6. All right, I still need to take care of stuff underneath my root. X equals -5 plus or minus 25 plus 24 is 49 all over 6. I know some of you are saying square root of 49 is 7. X equals -5 plus or minus 7 all over 6. Okay, so now you have 2 answers. Remember, you just did this problem by factoring, and we ended up with 2 answers. So same thing here, when I use my quadratic formula, I should get 2 answers. So I'm going to take my -5, and I'm going to take plus 7. X equals a -5 plus 7 over 6. All right, so I'm going to take my -5 plus 7. -5 plus 7 is 2, 6. Which is 1/3. I believe on the front page there, I had gotten 1/3. You guys can look at the top of your paper. You got 1/3, didn't you? All right, now let's take the second one. I need to do the minus sign, so I'm going to go negative 5 minus 7. X equals a negative 5 minus 7 over 6. A negative 5 minus 7 is a negative 12 over 6. And that gets me negative 2. So if I look back at the top of my paper, I did get x equals 1/3 and negative 2, and that's what I'm getting in this situation as well. Now, you're going to use your quadratic formula when you cannot factor. We're going to start out using it where we can factor because we're going to get a little frustrated if we're working with all those decimals. So when you come to class tomorrow, we're going to focus on working on the quadratic formula. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you in class tomorrow.